All right, get ready to dive deep. Today, we're taking a close look at Puravankara Ltd's Q2 FY25 financial results. And, well, let me tell you, these numbers, they really tell a story. We've got a few things to work with here. We've got the company's official announcement to the stock exchange,
Right.
their super detailed financial report, which even includes the auditor's
Yeah.
review, and to top it all off, a really slick investor presentation. So we've got plenty to dig into.
Lots to unpack.
Expert speaker, what's the big takeaway for you? What really jumps out from all this?
Well, I think the first thing that really grabbed my attention was their income growth. We're talking about a 67% year-on-year increase for H1 of FY25.
Yeah.
And that's not just growth. That's a remarkable jump.
Yeah.
Especially while they're also making strategic investments and working hard to lower their debt.
67%, really. I mean, are they just printing money over there? What's fueling that kind of growth?
It's not luck, that's for sure. It's all about strategy. Puravankara is playing the field very, very smartly. They're really diversifying their offerings across brands, price segments, and even geographies.
Okay, now you've got to break that down for me. What exactly does this multi-pronged attack, as you call it, actually look like?
So picture this. They've got Purva, for those who are looking for that luxury experience.
Right.
Then they have Provident for the mid-income market, a more, budget-conscious buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have Purvaland, and that's for those folks who want to build their own dream home from the ground up.
So they're really covering all their bases.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to capture different types of buyers, each with their own needs and desires.
That's smart. Spread the love, spread the risk. But what about geographically? Where are they focusing their efforts?
Well, traditionally, they've been a big player in South India, but they're making a pretty noticeable push into the Mumbai and Pune markets.
Interesting.
Those are, as you know, hotbeds of growth and tons of potential for real estate development.
Yeah, those are some big markets to break into.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going after the luxury market with Purva and expanding into these areas with lots of, up-and-coming buyers. But hold on, something in the sales numbers here is throwing me off a bit. How are their sales values actually down year on year, even with that massive income jump we talked about? How does that even work?
I know, it seems a little counterintuitive at first.
Mm-hmm.
But while the overall value of sales is down, the volume, the number of units they're actually selling is up.
So they're selling more units, but at higher prices? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's all about a strategic shift, a really clever one, I think. They're putting more emphasis on higher priced units, which of course increases the average realization per square foot.
Makes sense.
And don't forget, those projects outside of Bengaluru we mentioned, those tend to command higher prices as well.
Location, location, location. It all makes sense now. But I do have to ask, with all this focus on higher priced offerings, are they leaving the average home buyer behind?
Not at all, actually. The data shows that 79% of their sales are still coming from units under Rs 2 crores.
Okay, good to know. So they're still catering to a wide range of buyers. That's always a good sign.
Absolutely. A sign of a healthy business for sure.
All right, so far we're seeing strong growth, a smart approach to sales, a diversified portfolio. Puravankara seems to be hitting all the right notes, but let's be honest, there are always a few things that maybe don't sound so great, right? Any sour notes in this otherwise harmonious symphony?
Well, you're absolutely right. There's always something lurking beneath the surface, and in this case, it's the auditor's report. A few things in there caught my eye, specifically an emphasis of matter paragraph. They're highlighting some ongoing legal proceedings that could potentially impact the company's financials.
Emphasis of matter. That sounds like the auditor politely clearing their throat and saying, hey, you might want to pay attention to this. So what is it? What's the issue?
Basically, it comes down to a series of legal battles over property titles and some questions surrounding their income tax filings. And these things, they can get messy.
Yeah.
And it's really important to understand the potential implications.
Okay, so property disputes and tax issues, never a good time. What's the nature of these cases and what could they mean for Puravankara down the line?
Well, without getting too bogged down in all the legal jargon, it boils down to disputes over ownership of certain properties and some discrepancies in their income tax filings.
Okay, so standard stuff, but still a bit of a headache.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite these legal challenges, the company's management hasn't actually set aside any funds to cover potential losses.
No provisions. That seems like a pretty bold move. Are they just super confident, or is there something else we're missing here?
It definitely raises an eyebrow, that's for sure. It could mean they're just really confident they'll win these cases, but it also means there's a real possibility of a financial hit if things don't go their way. It's definitely a risk that investors should be aware of.
It's a good reminder that even with a stellar performance, there are always these external factors that can really influence a company's future. But hey, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more positive, like cash flow. It's the lifeblood of any business, especially in real estate. What's the situation at Puravankara?
Well, put it this way. They're in a pretty good spot. They have a strong cash flow position, which is always a good sign. And they're not afraid to use it. They've invested a whopping INR 945 crores in land acquisitions in just the first half of fiscal year 25.
Wow, that's a lot of cash. What are they trying to tell us with that move?
It just screams confidence in their future growth. They're betting big on continued demand for real estate, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And there's another pretty impressive stat. Their receivables, the money they're owed from buyers, well, that actually covers a significant portion of their remaining construction costs.
So they're sitting on a pile of cash, have tons of projects in the pipeline, and they're expanding into new markets. What does all this mean for the future of Puravankara?
Well, these results, combined with their expansion strategy and focus on debt reduction, paint a pretty positive picture for Puravankara's future. They're projecting a significant surplus, and they seem to be well-positioned to take advantage of new opportunities in the real estate market.
That is encouraging to hear. But we always have to remember that past performance doesn't guarantee future results. There are always risks involved. What are some of the potential bumps in the road for Puravankara?
You're absolutely right. There are always bumps in the road. Those legal issues we talked about earlier, they could still have a financial impact. And you just never know what kind of unforeseen challenges might pop up in the constantly changing real estate landscape.
Yeah, true. It sounds like Puravankara is definitely a company to watch closely in the coming months and years. There's a lot to be excited about, but it's important to keep an eye on those potential risks as well.
I agree. They're making some bold moves, and they seem to be playing the long game. It'll be interesting to see how their expansion strategy unfolds and if they can successfully navigate those legal issues.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in part one of our deep dive. We've seen impressive growth, some smart strategies, and a few potential red flags to keep in mind. But there's still a lot more to explore, so make sure you stick with us as we continue to unpack Puravankara's journey in part two.
We left off talking about Puravankara's expansion, outside of their traditional South Indian territory.
Right.
It's a pretty bold move, especially with those markets, Mumbai and Pune.
Yeah.
Those are notoriously competitive, right?
Yeah. It's not like they're just, strolling into some sleepy little town. These are major metropolitan areas. They've got established players.
Absolutely.
What makes them think they can, crack those markets?
Well, they seem to be approaching it with a really good mix of, I think, strategy and confidence.
Okay.
And remember that, remember the three-pronged attack that we were talking about?
Right. The brand strategy.
Yeah, they're really using that to target specific buyer segments in these new regions. So
Yeah.
Purva for the luxury seeker, Provident for, the value-conscious buyer,
Right.
and then Purvaland for those who want to build their own dream home.
So they're really segmenting the market strategically.
Exactly. It's offering something for everyone, but in a very tailored approach.
Yeah, makes sense. But beyond just the brand positioning, what else is giving them the confidence to, really make such a big push into these new areas?
Well, I think their track record and expertise definitely play a big role.
Okay.
I mean, they have a solid reputation for delivering high-quality projects,
Mm-hmm.
and they're known for sticking to their commitments, which is huge in real estate, right?
Yeah.
Where trust is super important. And the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Non-Bengaluru projects, those now account for almost half of their ongoing projects.
Really?
And a whopping 72% of their planned projects.
Wow. So they're really putting the money where their mouth is.
They are.
But let's talk specifics. We've been mentioning Mumbai and Pune a lot. What's so special about those markets in particular?
Well, they're both experiencing really rapid growth.
Right.
Fueled by, booming economy, a young and aspirational population, and, increasing urbanization. Mumbai, of course, being the financial capital of India, it attracts a lot of high net worth individuals who are often looking for luxury property.
Yeah.
Pune, on the other hand, with its IT hub and educational institutions, well, that attracts a younger demographic, folks who are maybe looking for more affordable but still modern housing options.
Okay.
So it's It's like the perfect storm of opportunity for a company like Puravankara.
So they're tapping into the unique dynamics of each city, catering to the specific demands of each market. But I mean, let's be real, every market has its own challenges, right?
Of course.
What are some of the hurdles that they might face in these new areas?
Well, for one, they're going up against those established players that we talked about.
Right.
Those players who already have a strong foothold in these markets. So they're going to need to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
And not just on price, but also on quality, design, and customer experience. And then they also have to navigate the regulatory landscape of each city,
Right.
which can be a minefield, of paperwork and approvals.
Oh, yeah. And let's not forget the overall economic climate. We've got rising interest rates,
Right.
inflation.
Yeah.
It's putting pressure on the whole real estate sector.
For sure.
So how is Puravankara prepared to weather these storms?
Well, that's where their financial prudence comes in.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about their focus on debt reduction?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is huge in an environment where borrowing costs are rising.
Yeah.
They're also, really diligently managing their cash flow,
Right.
making sure they have enough resources to handle any unexpected turbulence.
Right.
And I think, importantly, they're not just banking on new sales.
Okay.
They're actively collecting on their existing receivables,
Right.
which ensures a steady inflow of cash.
That's reassuring. It sounds like they're not just building houses, they're building a solid foundation.
Exactly. A solid foundation for the future.
But even with, the best laid plans, there's always uncertainty.
Oh, for sure. Real estate is a cyclical industry.
Right.
External factors can always throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah.
But I think Puravankara seems to be approaching this expansion with a cautious optimism. They're taking calculated risks, they're diversifying their portfolio, and they're staying agile in the face of, changing market dynamics.
Yeah. Speaking of agility, their investor presentation highlights something they call the U philosophy.
Oh, yes.
What is that?
The U philosophy. It's basically, it's their way of saying we're all about the customer.
Okay.
It's a customer-centric approach.
Mm-hmm.
It puts the buyer's needs and desires at the forefront of everything they do.
So they're not just building properties, they're building relationships.
Exactly. And it's, you're going beyond just bricks and mortar. They offer value-added services like interior design through their Purvastreaks division.
Oh, wow.
And they even have their own production unit, Purva Woodworks,
Okay.
to create those move-in ready homes that buyers are, increasingly looking for these days.
It's like a one-stop shop for everything home-related.
Right.
They're thinking, beyond just the transaction.
A whole customer journey.
Yeah. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room, right? We've talked about their growth, their smart strategies, their customer focus, all this great stuff.
Right.
But what about those legal issues we mentioned earlier? I mean, those could have really put a damper on things.
You are right. Those are definitely still a potential wild card. The company hasn't set aside funds to cover those potential losses.
Yeah.
These disputes could still have a real financial impact if things don't go their way.
Yeah.
So it's a risk investors should definitely keep in mind.
It's a good reminder that even with, what looks like a really rosy picture, there are always factors that can impact a company's future, right?
Absolutely.
It's about weighing those potential rewards against the risks.
Exactly. Investing is never about guarantees. It's about making informed decisions.
Right.
Based on, a really good understanding of the company and what's going on around it.
Yeah, a holistic view. Okay, well, with those legal matters in mind, let's take a look at some more of the details from their investor presentation. Is there anything else in there that caught your eye? Anything that maybe speaks to their long-term vision or their commitment, to a sustainable future?
Yeah, there is actually. There's their commitment to sustainability really stood out to me.
Okay.
It's like woven throughout the whole presentation. And it's clear, this isn't just some marketing thing. It's really a core part of how they do business.
Right.
They're incorporating green building practices. They're going for certifications like IGBC Gold and USGBC Gold. And they're even, actively working to reduce their carbon footprint.
So they're not just building homes, they're building responsibly, which is a big deal these days, both for buyers who are environmentally conscious.
Absolutely.
And for the long-term value of those properties, right?
Yeah. It's not just a feel-good thing. It's a smart business move.
It is.
And it really aligns with that whole growing demand for, sustainable living.
Yeah.
People are way more aware of their impact on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking for companies that share those values.
Right.
Puravankara seems to get that.
Yeah, for sure.
But it goes beyond just the environmental stuff. They're also committed to social responsibility,
Okay.
through their CSR initiatives,
Hmm.
promoting diversity in their workforce
Hmm.
and, fostering a culture of good governance and all that.
It's like they're trying to hit all the marks. Profitability, customer satisfaction, environmental responsibility, social impact. It's ambitious, but
Right.
it
Oh,
seems to
no.
be working.
It does, it does. And it sets them apart. I mean, it's a crowded market out
It
there.
is.
And, this shows they're not just building buildings, they're trying to build a legacy.
Right, right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Hmm.
We've gone from their balance sheets to their blueprints.
We have.
From brand strategy to sustainability. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And I have to say, I'm impressed. I mean, Puravankara is clearly a company with ambition,
Hmm.
with vision, and with a real commitment to doing things the right way.
Hmm.
But I think the big question is, will it all pay off? Will this expansion strategy work out?
Right.
Will they overcome those legal challenges? Will this commitment to sustainability actually make a difference? I mean, only time will tell, right?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of business, right?
Yeah.
There are no guarantees.
Yeah.
They're just calculated risks and educated guesses. But based on what we've seen,
Hmm.
their financials, their strategy, their philosophy, I think Puravankara is in a good spot, a really good spot. Of course, you never know what's going to happen in the world, but they seem to be approaching it all, with the right amount of caution and a strong belief in their vision.
Well said. Well, to our listener, who's been with us this whole time, I think it's safe to say that Puravankara is a company worth keeping an eye on. They're a real force in the Indian real estate market,
They are.
and their story's not over yet.
Not even close.
So we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights into Puravankara Ltd. They're a company that's pushing boundaries, that's challenging conventions, and that's setting a new standard for what it means to be a responsible business, a successful business in the 21st century.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, stay curious, and keep diving deep into the world around you. Until next time.